Hello, everybody. This is Frank with Iron Age News here at the South Florida Conservative News Center. It is Monday, July 14th, 9:37 a.m. Do you know where your Attorney General is? That's the big question we have. So we're going to be semi middle of the road, Tim Poolish when it comes to Pam Bondi and give you what she's done, what she hasn't done. Who knows what she's really going to do? But this is the story so far, okay? Uh, President Trump returned to the White House in 2025. He brought with him a promise to reshape the federal bureaucracy. And at the heart of that effort stood one of his most loyal legal allies, your friend of mine, Pam Bondi. Pam wasn't new in the political circle. She had been something of a big deal down here in Florida, serving as the Attorney General from 2011 to 2019. And like they say, headlines and controversy. I was already down on her when she got the AG job because of some issues of how she did not handle tracking down illegal voting and prosecuting the SOEs, the superintendent advisors of election in a few of the counties. They sort of just let it slide after the governor implemented this task force. So nothing got done. It was a big bunch of shit. He did it because I think he was afraid he was going to lose because we have a lot of fake voting in Florida. We do. Don't let anybody tell you different. Go go back. I had a different fellow put that video together a while ago, and yeah, ghost voting is still a big thing here. They just don't do it a lot, only when they really need to. So her ascent from the to the role of U.S. Attorney General came not just from her resume, it came from loyalty. Okay. After Florida, she defended President Trump during his first impeachment and became a regular on conservative media. That's where she got the FaceTime. And that loyalty earned her the top job at Justice in February 2025 after the successful assassination of Matt Gaetz. Those of you who remember Matt would have been an entirely different animal, I think, going into that job than Pam. So she didn't waste any time making any waves. Within weeks, she eliminated DOJ units which were seen as politically hostile to Trump's aligned goals. That was the Foreign Influence Task Force. That's gone. Klepto capture and aggressive FARA teams, they were disbanded. So she has redirected DOJ energy toward law enforcement, immigration enforcement, and what she called internal neutrality. I would say internal neutrality is to try to calm down the bad actors who still have significant control over the Justice Department and significant control over the Federal Bureau of Investigation, as witnessed by the later on story of Dan Bongino having a hissy fit like a little girl because he's not able to make any headlines. Same with Kash Patel. But one of Bondi's more forceful initiative was her crackdown on sanctuary cities in her own way. She froze DOJ grants to jurisdictions that refused ICE detainer cooperation. She has sued cities like Los Angeles and Chicago and greenlit criminal charges against local officials accused of impeding federal immigration. Impeding federal immigration agents. There's more that should have been done. There is coordination amongst these sanctuary city and state people, which will have allowed for a RICO indictment. And we're just not going to go in that direction. We're not going to really punish the people responsible for some reason. Her stance that she had won praise from the immigration, get them all out people. But there were a lot of legal challenges from the civil rights groups because the plan for the Democrats was to inundate the United States with millions of illegals that we could not repulse. Once they were here and caused enough troubles, then they would say, well, let's make them legal for some reason. If they're causing trouble, make them legal and give them the vote, which would have guaranteed that the Democrats would never lose an election again in the United States. That's why this fight is going on. If you think it's about hating Mexicans, well, now it is because so many people who did not have any interest in Mexicans now hate them. And the funniest thing is they're not the biggest illegal immigrant in the country. They just think they are because the whole world revolves around the Mexicans. because they're so fucking stupid when it comes to Central America and South America. They think that, like I said, the world revolves around them, and President Scheinbaum doesn't help. We've done a video on her and her aggression inside the United States using these dimwits, and you can find it on the South Florida Conservative page. You can find it on here if you're watching the videos somewhere. Okay. So Bondi also redirected the DOJ's civil rights priorities. She dropped the lawsuits targeting police and firefighter exam requirements, which should have never been done, and instead focused on defending religious liberty, which you're going to have a two-edged sword there, and first responder rights, calling the previous equity-based approach reverse discrimination. It was reverse discrimination. It wasn't, she didn't have to call it that. But the fact is, there's more to be done when it comes to those people that are being left off the rolls for fire and police. And we've seen the problem of allowing just anybody to become commanders of these groups. But that's a story for another time. All right. So July 2025 brought one of the most striking headlines of her tenure. Criminal investigations into former FBI Director James Comey and former CIA Director John Brennan have begun. Unlike past probes that were narrow and targeted, centered on potential false statements to Congress during the 2016 Russia interference investigation, the cases were initiated in part by a referral from CIA Director John Ratcliffe, showing a declassified report criticizing Brennan's handling of the Steele dossier. While no charges have yet been filed, Bondi and President Trump defended the investigation as long overdue accountability. It's not political revenge. Its critics predictably called it a witch hunt. But you have to remember, Brennan was also in there with that group of former intelligence agents who denounced President Trump during the election. At the same time, Mark Milley and the rest of his jerk-off traitor pals were writing the letter saying that we will not accept a President Trump in a second term. So a little bit of treason in there too. Brennan will get lucky to get off with a slap on the wrist. Comey is busy teaching at William and Mary, so I guess he'll go back there to corrupting shitheads from Northern Virginia for a while. But there's nothing else to be said on that matter. So where were we on this? It's just very annoying when you have to see this, go through these things, and you look at all the you're looking at a lot of missed opportunities. I'm sure you can see where I'm coming from. You have the entire power of the federal government behind you. The last attorney general, whose name I will not mention because he was a piece of shit and should be in a jail cell, was able to totally dismember the legal system of the United States for 4 years. 4 years, there was no law in the United States under Joe Biden unless Joe Biden wanted it. And Pammy's out there throwing her fucking dress over her head and not doing you see what the job can be. You can see how nasty it can get. And that was totally out of line. This is stuff that is in line with the law, and it's not getting done. It's not like her in a room. Everybody has this fascination with these bureau heads, and the president too, that he's sitting in a room, the candle's going, and he's solving all the problems. She is an executor. She executes plans. She has people make the plan. She likes it or doesn't like it, and then it is sent out and it is done. Why isn't she hammering? She needs to put additional pro-United States attorneys general into California and start rounding up everyone. They just had a video of them assaulting ICE agents again. Another video where they're just knocking this guy, looks like he's playing golf around. This is an assault. They're like 30, 40 Mexicans jumping. And I only say they're Mexicans because they're carrying a Mexican flag. And they are not from Norway. I can tell the difference. All right. So, yeah, that's going down. And what happened was, for all this activity, all this flurry and blah, 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 major reforms have never materialized. Okay. The FISA court system went unanswered. That was a big thing with me and a bunch of other people. The most illegal search surveillance system on the planet in a free country is the FISA court system, the FISA warrant system, the FISA, espionage system, for what we can call it. No change. Section 702 surveillance powers used to justify wiretaps and metadata collection on U.S. citizens is also intact. Nobody's touched it. Bondi also did not deliver on promises to restrain the FBI's political entanglements. She will not demilitarize those idiots. So she formed a weaponization working group and removed some DOJ staff that were involved in January 6th. But structurally, the FBI is exactly the way it was when Joe Biden left office. All those guys, all those smug sons of bitches that you saw at the hearings, who knew that they were the law. You know, the ex-director of the FBI used to pretty much say, well, I'm the law. What are you going to do about it? Right? And this is when the taxpayer and the citizen says, all right, Donald Trump's in. Now we'll see you smile out of the other side of your mouth, Mr. Ray, you sea sucker, you fucking traitor to the country. Right? And that has not happened. I am becoming a barometer for the disillusion of many of the Trump voters because I see what's not getting done. He's doing things, but somebody is asleep at the switch on this side of the Atlantic, right? So then the one that is in some people's mind the worst sin ever, the Jeffrey Epstein case. The public relations disaster that has tarnished Bondi's credibility, but worse, it is as throwing shit at a wall. Some of it is now on President Trump because of this. All right. So he had to come out with this statement, which makes it sound even worse. Yeah, it does. So she promised at the beginning of her term to release the long rumored Epstein client list. Many times that she talked on my desk, it's in my bureau. I have my cat looking at it, all this stuff. What followed was this heavily redacted document dump, already stuff that was known to the public, and a DOJ memo stating there is no client list at all. Also, the way it was released just to a few conservative influencers made many people skeptical. Many people skeptical. Okay. The MAGA base is not having it. The borderline Republicans are not having it. There are people that voted for Trump specifically just to see these Epstein files. This is a true statement. For those of you people who don't realize it, that is true, right? And they are not getting what they think they deserve. They should at least take out the redacted sections that don't interfere with giving out the names of the girl victims. Everything else should at least come out. That would show that you're being serious, but nobody's doing it. All right. So even though Trump came out in her favor, the damage is done. So where does that leave Pam Bondi? Okay. She's reshaped the DOJ's rhetoric and some of its priorities. She's fiercely defended immigration law. What got done? Who knows? Recentered law enforcement and opened accountability probes that her base demanded. She's also missed on the most systematic or systemic reforms, the FISA issue, FBI culture, and transparency in the Epstein case. Her legacy at this point, if it's still writing itself, is going to be completely marred by those three things, because by leaving the FBI intact and access to FISA, if the next president is a Democrat, we go back to Biden's police state again almost immediately. And unfortunately for her, she doesn't realize she'll be one of the first ones that gets rounded up. That's how it would work. So she came into the Justice Department promising transformation. She's delivered some action, some controversy, and no shortage of headlines. We are not running a baseball team here. This is not Castaway Island. It's the United States. We are in a constitutional crisis. You need somebody who's going to do the real job, which is put traitors in jail. All right. Now she's going to turn around, get a second wind, and get born again, come to Jesus, as we say. Then that'll be fine. She continues down this road thinking that Uncle Don's going to keep a shield over her head. She's wrong. That's not how the White House works. And we'll do a little thing coming up soon, whenever I get it done, of the psychological breakdown of how to succeed in the Trump White House. Every White House has its own environment. And if you cannot play in the big boy pool with Donald Trump, you'd better get the F out of it. So anyway, that's all for now. Hope you're having a good day. It's happy Monday for everybody else. And that is all. Goodbye.